That's the hardest song to dance to.
Yeah.
For reals.
Slow.
Yes, very slow. Very cool. What's up, Marcy?
Hey, how's it going, bud?
Welcome to the Power30, everybody. My name is Sam Johnson, one of the sales trainers here today. Today's guest with us is Marcy Taylor, one of my very good friends, colleagues, mentors. For those of you that don't know, Power30, this is just quick little 30-minute interview style segments to give you a little bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes at PayTrace. Marcy, you are our guest of honor today.
Thanks for having me.
We're super excited. A lot of people are really excited for this. I want to take a few minutes just so the audience can get to know you, because you have one of the most infectious personalities, I feel like, at the company. I'm going to try to make you laugh really loud sometime during this. Marcy decided to bring some props today because we are going Today Show style, Hoda and Kathy Lee. Yep. So we've got some grape juice, right?
Right.
Right? Got some grape juice, got some chocolates, dancing to Willy Wonka, right?
Cheers.
Cheers. Totally drinking that. But we've got some really cool conversations today. But just to get to know you a little bit, you are a dog fanatic.
Yep.
I'm the crazy
animal lover, but
animal lover. I'm the crazy cat guy. You are the dog nut. Mm-hmm. You've got a couple puppies, right?
Yep. I got Lily, Boston Terrier, and we just got a new French puppy, French bulldog named Daisy May.
Daisy May.
Mm-hmm.
And how old's Daisy?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. So it's really funny because Boston Terriers are not the quietest dogs. And we do a lot of kind of Zoom meetings, remote meetings, and Daisy will make some appearance, or Lily will make some appearances on your camera, and she likes to sleep a lot.
Yes, she does, and she snores really loud.
She snores really loud, like
they can hear it.
It's pretty bad.
I didn't realize how bad it was.
It's pretty bad. You need to hit the mute button a little bit more. Just kidding. Okay. So puppies, awesome. They're working out. They like each other.
Yep.
Okay.
11.
That's good.
Yep.
So another fun fact about you is you are pretty athletic.
kind of like you, a jack of all trades, but I'm a master at nothing.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. So, but a little background. So PayTrace actually has a PayTrace softball team that used to be co-ed.
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
But we lost our ringer, Marcy.
Yeah, well.
Tell us a little bit about softball, because you have some interesting stories about our softball team.
Yeah, so I've been playing softball since I was a little girl, and I just hung up my cleats after that season. But we won the championship co-ed. We did, but I took a one hopper line shot off of a guy, and it hit the front of my shin, and I limped around work for about a week thinking it was going to heal up. Then I went in and they had to lance it and drain it, and I was off my feet for 3 days. And then just not too long ago, I went in and checked it again because it really wasn't healing. And they said, that's kind of like a cancerous spot. We need to surgically remove it. So I actually had to have Mohs surgery on it.
Oh my God.
So I'm done with softball now.
You're done with softball. But you did leave on a high note, right?
I did. We did. We won.
We won.
Yeah.
We're champions. PayTrace champions. So that's awesome. You'll also notice, guys, we've got some other props, some little chocolatey dudes here. Here you go. Some sweet chocolates. In the email, you saw that we had like a little theme going on. Referrals are like a box of chocolates. There's a lot of different good types in there. Maybe some nougat, some coconut, some fudge, right? There's all different types. We're going to talk a lot about referrals today, right? We're going to get in some good stuff, some best practices. I want to say, guys, we really encourage interaction on these calls. So if you have questions for Marcy, she's a plethora of knowledge. There's a Q&A box that you can type in your questions to. We're going to shell out maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end of this to field some questions. But guys, as they're popping in, right, get them out there. Questions, comments, emotional outbursts, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear them. So I want to talk a little bit about referrals.
Okay.
Right? lead generation can be one of the most difficult jobs for a salesperson, right?
Yep.
That's a big deal. And referral-based selling is probably one of the most effective that we've seen in PayTrace. Is that a fairly accurate statement?
Absolutely. If you have a merchant that really likes you, ask them who they do business with. And that's a great referral to go after them.
Okay, so merchant referrals are a pretty good way to get some of these leads, right? Some of those warm leads.
Yep.
Do you have some examples of maybe some best practices that you've heard, merchants or reps getting some of these merchant referrals with?
Well, so a good base is like someone who provides some business services. So like CPAs, they come in contact with a lot of great businesses that they're doing their taxes for, they're doing their payroll for, or whatever. So think of kind of organizations or groups that would involve a lot of businesses that use that service. And that's a great source for going after merchant referrals.
Okay, so CPAs, right? And maybe not right now during tax season.
Not right now, after April. They always take vacations right after the 15th too. So maybe in May, June.
Right, when business is slowing down a little bit, they need something to do, right? Get some of those leads from those CPAs. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a cool referral source.
Exactly.
I once heard of a merchant story that, and maybe you can add to this, Marcy, but there's merchants that maybe not be the best fits for PayTrace, like restaurants, right?
Right, exactly.
But just because restaurants aren't a good fit for PayTrace doesn't mean that you can't get leads from them.
Exactly. So they might have a catering business. A catering business is perfect for PayTrace with level 2, level 3. So you may not want their day-to-day business, but for sure you want catering. And then also, where are they buying their equipment from? Where are they buying their services from, their linen service? Just ask that merchant, who do you do business with? Who do you use your card with when you're buying?
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'll add a little bit of flavor to that. One of my favorite examples that I bring up is an espresso stand that one of our partners was trying to sell, and right, PayTrace wasn't a good fit for them. It makes sense. Other solutions are. But that rep went and asked, they took it a step further and said, where do you spend your money? Right? Where are your biggest expenses? And they found out that dairy happened to be their biggest expense. So they went out, got that introduction to the dairy distributor, found out that, hey, they're taking tons of B2B, and PayTrace was the perfect solution. That was a very high value type of merchant.
And then I bet that dairy association or that dairy merchant belongs to some sort of association, so finding out from him what kind of association he might belong to.
Exactly. Right.
Chambers are another good example of associations to go after that have large groups of merchants that they're dealing with. I
know we've got a lot of a lot of reps that are in BNIs and networking lead groups and stuff, and those are all good, right? Those are all going to be great resources to take advantage of.
Exactly.
Cool. So, Marcy, you've got a really cool background. Right, you haven't been with PayTrace forever, but you do have a lot of experience in the kind of the industry, especially with banking. Really cool, just kind of seeing your growth throughout, right? Because you used to work for a bank that actually sold PayTrace.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of cool. I want to ask you a little bit about that. But then after that, you actually transitioned into PayTrace on our support team.
Right.
So you've got this really cool background on the product knowledge and what are some of these pain points that merchants are asking. And then likewise, you've shifted into the sales position. So, if you haven't talked to Marcy, super wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. So I was started out in banking as a DECA student, when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So, and then that was my first gig. My first full-time job after college was a bank in Montana. And then just kept staying in banking, got into merchant services. And we could have sold PayTrace. We did sell PayTrace, but at the time it was a markup. So we didn't use it as much as we wanted to. And I always tell people, had I known as much as I know about PayTrace now, that would have been the only thing I sold. Absolutely would have been the only thing I sold.
So you had PayTrace, but you didn't really understand necessarily what the benefits were at the time.
Exactly. And then we had an upstream vendor who actually marked it up to us. So it actually wasn't as competitive as some of our other products that we used.
Right.
Yeah.
So your specific scenario is kind of just a bank referral relationship is what that was set up as, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk, because we have a lot of partners out there that are ISOs, sub-ISOs, and they work with a lot of banks and bank partners, bank referrals. That's another really great resource. Can you kind of talk about what that looks like?
Yeah, that's like a really warm lead, because you've got corporate banking customers who have lenders. So they already have all the financials on those customers. So the risk and the underwriting is much easier. Usually the corporate officers will approve that merchant line of credit, basically. But you've got all these corporate accounts that you can look into and see if they're getting merchant deposits from someone other than, who you guys are using, and be able to go after them. And one of the things I found out when I was selling merchant services to the bank customers is they're trying to keep it very simple. They're trying to keep everything under one umbrella. So they like doing business with their banks. They want to do business with their banks if they can. So, it's a great, really warm lead that, you should go after all of them, really.
Okay. Very cool. So, and we've seen a lot of these guys, right? The business to business clients, they've got hundreds of them that are banking with them, and they're probably using a lot of solutions that, probably don't know about level 2 and level 3.
Exactly.
Right?
There's so many merchants that still don't know. The opportunity is huge.
Yep. No, that's awesome. One other lead source that I think a lot of folks are really starting to like is this Visa Supplier Locator tool.
Right.
What type of exposure have you had with that, and what kind of feedback have you heard from this?
It's really popular because you can go to it's on our website, it's on our banner page for the love of money. To the far right, I believe it says Visa Supplier Locator tool, or B2B merchants. And you can type in a zip. You can pick a SIC code, or you can type in a SIC code, and it will give you a location, a listing of merchants, business customers that are in that location range that you put, and with that SIC code. And then you can click on a little arrow down key, and it will tell you if they're getting level 2 and 3. And I always say, even if they are getting level 2 and 3, it still is worth pursuing them, because you don't know what they're being priced at. We've seen where there's line item, $400 line item on a statement that says interchange optimization. So just because the rates may look about the same, really check over the statement to make sure there's no line items being added in for interchange optimization fees. But it'll tell you if it says level 2, they're not getting level 3.
Right.
So it would be great. I would just start using that, flood that website.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time on there, and that's a really cool place, because the other thing that from using that tool is that it's developed by Visa.
Exactly. It's not our tool, it's Visa's.
Right. And the thing about that is that these are businesses that are actually accepting credit cards. Right? Because we know right now B2B is still pretty untapped for credit cards. What is it like, statistics?
It's 10% only tapped into, so it's 90% untapped.
Right. It's still a lot of cash and credit that's being processed, but with this tool, you can understand, right, that these are businesses accepting credit cards.
Right.
Right. Which is awesome. So that's going to that's going to make that conversation so much easier. Right.
Yeah. I'd walk in and say, do you know what level 2 and level 3 processing is, if I was going into that merchant? And if they don't, tell them, Google it. You can find out, So you've got to have a solution that is able to do that, and not all solutions are.
Yeah. Very cool. So guys, you've got a lot of different resources out there, right? There's not just the traditional phone book shotgun approach anymore. People are getting smarter, right? Referral-based selling is very, very beneficial, right? Your success rate is going to be a lot higher than just dialing in phone numbers, and you can use that Visa tool to take it a step further. So that's some really cool stuff.
And one thing that I always did when I was out selling, I'd always say, let me do a statement analysis, because don't you want to know if you really do have a good rate? because most merchants don't feel they're getting the best rate. They all feel like they're paying too much. And there were times where I would come back to them and I'd say, I cannot beat this rate, and that gives them a good sense of reassurance that they do have a good rate. And then the next time things break down with that processor, they'll remember me, hopefully, when I was selling. Hey, I remember she told me I'm getting a really good rate.
Yeah.
So, give them a peace of mind, if nothing else, and they'll think of you the next time they have problems or want to switch. And if they aren't getting level 2 and level 3, they can, you might be able to mark up their rates and still save them money. And that we hear that all the time. I actually can price the merchant higher and still save them money.
Yeah. That's a really good conversation to be able to have.
It is. It is.
Well, I want to, before we transition, I want to do a little bit more onto this bank referral side, right? Because we're talking about this and that they're a really good lead generation source. But, how do you get your foot in there? And then once you're actually able to get a hold of the right person, right? What's kind of that next step? How can you demonstrate PayTrace to them?
Well, obviously, you're not going to get your foot in the door to like the Chase Banks of the world and Bank of America. But, I would start with even just a local credit union.
Mm-hmm.
Go in and see who does their merchant services.
Yep.
And get to know their bank manager or their credit union manager. Ask them if, they could refer some merchants to you. If you land a couple and you have some success, that's really kind of the icing on the cake with PayTrace, is you're going to get good feedback from your merchants. So it's really get a couple on your side, get the manager on your side, get the people on their side, find out who they're using. And they've got the warm leads right there. They've got business customers.
Right. And one thing that I want to add is, as many of you guys know, right, we don't direct sell PayTrace. We are not a processor. We're just standalone gateway. We want you to be successful. So if you are trying to build some of these bank referral relationships, right, reach out to Marcy, reach out to our sales team, because we're more than happy to help demo PayTrace, explain the technology behind it, explain level 2 and level 3, right? We do this every day. So hopefully that can be a great conversation and right, use us as resources to help you become successful.
Right. And I always tell people, sell to what interests you. Speak to merchants that you have a background in that same field. For instance, my background was banking, so that's kind of where I tend to go. But maybe your dad was a veterinarian. Maybe you can speak to vets because of you have that background. You grew up with a father who was a veterinarian, so maybe you're a motorhead, automobile shops are your life, or car dealerships or whatever. Speak to what speaks to you. Go after those types of merchants, because then you're authentic. You're talking their language. You're very interested. You're engaged.
Yep, absolutely. Find your niche, right?
Yep.
Right. I have seen a couple questions come through, guys, and there seems to be some consistency here. So I want to take a minute to address this one about that Visa Supplier Locator, right? James is answering a lot of these questions, but it'd be good just to walk through it on our website one more time. So James, would you mind just pulling up our screen? And maybe let's start off at PayTrace, right? Let's go to paytrace.com and show these guys how they can get there, right? If you go on our website and get to this paytrace.com/interchange savings, it's one of the first links on our homepage, right? James has that up right now. Click that link, right? Let us guide you through interchange. And at the bottom of the page is this area that says PayTrace Hearts B2B Merchants, or you can click on this link right here and that'll get you there, right? PayTrace Hearts B2B Merchants. Click on that and maybe I challenge you guys, spend 10, 15 minutes today just typing in a few SIC codes, plug in your zip code, and see what's out there, right? You will probably be surprised on the volume of merchants just within 5 miles of you that fit this, right? There's all sorts of stuff. Agricultural co-ops, right? Maybe that might not be the best B2B one, but there's a lot of them on there. So play around with that. I'd recommend the SIC codes, and Marcy, maybe you'd agree, the ones that start with the 50.
Yeah, 5085. Yeah, and any of the contractors, you know. Industrial supplies is a good one.
Yeah.
Non-durable goods.
Durable goods, non-durable goods, all those wholesalers, right? Play around with that. There's tons of them out there. So
Contractors.
yeah, you can find a lot of good stuff in there. If you do have questions about that, right, reach out to us at sales@paytrace.com and we'd be happy to help guide you on some of that.
Yep.
Very cool. So I think we got some of those knocked out. Let's go ahead and we'll take a few different questions. I've seen a few come in. One from an anonymous attendee asking, how often does PayTrace see referrals for integrations? Ooh.
Yeah, that's, you know, when I was selling, I'm not kidding you, but you'd go into a shop and someone would say, well, I'm using this software, and you kind of get that deer in headlight look, and your eyes might start rolling in the back of your head, and you're like, just walk away, just walk away. Don't walk away. Engage yourself. Find out what they're using. What's the name of it? Is it an accounting software? How do they use it? Get a link, whatever you can get. And then let us know. Maybe it's an integration that we're pursuing. Maybe it's one that we have pursued and we weren't able to get.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, once you land one, you'll be so glad, because that is, again, that's another referral source, people that use that software. But that really hooks the merchant and makes them hard to leave when they have an integration. And, you know, it's not as hard as you think. So don't be scared. You know, just find out the name, send that to any of us at sales@paytrace.com or myself. Let us explore that with our integrations team and see if it's one that we're integrated with, one that we've pursued, one that we'd be interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I mean, I know it's hard, but when it works, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. And it's going to make those merchants heck of a lot stickier too.
So, and they'll be so happy. I mean, who doesn't want to be in their system that they use all the time, like Salesforce, and be able to process payments and do everything else that they do in Salesforce? You know, they'll never have to get out of their software.
Yep, absolutely. We did have a Power30 with Kevin Hurd, our integrations manager. So if you guys do have more, you know, interest on integrations, right, Marcy is an awesome source. She can get you in contact with the right people, but definitely check out that video as well. We've got another question in here, kind of a follow-up with that. Looks like Joseph is asking, is there a list of existing integrations right now on PayTrace's website? There actually is. So we want to make that easy to find. I'm going to ask James again, if you can go back to our website here, go to the homepage, and we'll share that screen. If you go to paytrace.com, up on that top area there's going to be a link that says developers. Yeah. Just click on that, and about halfway down the page, if you scroll down, you'll get to a list of our independent software vendors, our ISVs. So ones that are going to be really easy to set up, right, are going to be right here on this page. I mean, Marcy, you probably know some of our more popular ones.
Yep. The QuickBooks are really popular. The shopping carts are very popular.
Yep. You mentioned Salesforce. We do have a Salesforce integration. So we've got a list there. But again, don't just rely on this list. If there's one that you're not seeing, right, let us know, because we might already be working with them in some capacity, or that might be something we want to pursue.
Yeah. And right before he clicked on this list, there was a API documentation. It never hurts to give that API documentation to the merchant and their IT department. I was on a demo just down the street from here for local business, and for one of the reps that knew where our headquarters was, and they knew that this business was right down the street. So I actually went down there, and their IT department, you know, just jumped on that API documentation and had that integration done on their own. So that was a custom integration. It was done within, I'd say, 1 to 2 weeks. It was very fast. Because that documentation is language agnostic. It's an open source API. And if they have some good people, it really depends on how good the person is, but if they have some good people in their IT department, they may do a custom integration, you know, have them look at it at least.
Right. That's awesome insight. Thanks, Marcy. There's one more question here I want to tackle really quick, and that has to do a little bit with the catering. You mentioned catering earlier. So John's asking, right, you said catering might be a good fit for B2B level 2 and level 3. He's under the impression that MasterCard and Visa don't allow level 2 and level 3 for travel and entertainment, right? T&E SIC codes. What's your experience with these types of merchants, and how are they getting that benefit with PayTrace?
Well, I don't know that it's a travel and entertainment SIC code for that. But so if a business, local business here, runs a catering business besides their local restaurant, they probably would have a separate merchant account for just their catering business.
Right.
With a different SIC code.
Yeah. So navigating the SIC codes are a little tricky, John. You're correct, right? There are certain travel and entertainment, certain hospitality and restaurant SIC codes that just won't work for level 2 and level 3. If it did, we'd have tons of restaurants, but we don't. So you have to make sure that when you're setting that merchant up on the proper SIC code, that it is one of those applicable SIC codes for level 2 and level 3 processing. But we do have caterers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doing a lot of volume and a lot of level 2 and level 3.
Yeah.
Caveat to that is tip adjust, right? We don't support tip adjust. I think we mentioned that in some other ones. So you'll just have to keep that in mind, right? The caterers will have to build that into the total cost of the sale, or somehow run it that way. But it does seem like it's a pretty good fit in a lot of different types of businesses.
Exactly.
Well, Marcy, you had asked. You had mentioned a statement earlier when we were talking about integrations about merchants being stickier, right? They're going to be happier. They're going to stay with you for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Retention's a pretty big area with this. Really quick, you had some really cool numbers in a presentation that I just saw about merchant retention. Could you just really quick share those?
Sure. So in the industry, the average attrition is right around 25%, 24.9%. In the PayTrace portfolio as a whole, it's right around 12.9, just under 13. But when we look at our level 2 and level 3 merchants, our attrition is only 2.6. So it's very, very low for level 2, level 3 merchants. And then I can add more data to this pool because I just visited a partner, and one of the main salespeople, I'll give a shout out to Jim, he got an award because he had the lowest attrition, and he sells predominantly PayTrace accounts, and his attrition was right around 7%.
Wow, that rocks. Well, I think, Marcy, we kind of answered everything. Guys, I really want to thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you learned some cool stuff about PayTrace and about referrals. Marcy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Love chatting with you. We're gonna wrap this up, close this up with a cheers.
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 Happy
Thanks
sales.
for having us. Guys, we have a YouTube channel. If you want to see some of the old Power30s, check that out. Subscribe to it. I think James wants to pull that up really quick. But check it out. We've got Kevin Hurd, Eric Jenks, Homer Gonzalez, some really cool stuff. Next up is our CEO and founder, Scott Judkins. So stay tuned for that. He's going to be coming up in a few weeks. We'll be making some announcements soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye.